Anne, what a privilege to sit here with you this morning. It's a couple of years since you've swum your last world record, but tell me, where did it start for a young Anne Fairlie?
It started at my primary school, actually. I was very lucky in that the headmaster was the head of the Olympic Games Committee of South Africa.
Okay.
And he gave me a bursary for a term. And that's how I started swimming. I mean, I couldn't swim at all. I couldn't dive into the pool. I was petrified.
Okay, so your parents, did any of your parents swim? Was swimming anything in the family?
No, my dad was a good swimmer, but didn't do it competitively or anything.
Okay.
The genes were there.
Okay, and obviously you fell in love with it because you stayed in it for quite some time.
Then the coach said, look, I want to coach you for the rest of the year. And she did it for nothing. She was wonderful. And then at about the age of 12, then I went to Cecil Colwyn. Because it was more, lots more training and that, whereas I only went once a week to Mrs. Johnston was her name.
And obviously you had your biggest achievements in backstroke and also later in freestyle, but was backstroke from the first day, was it a stroke that you liked?
Yes.
Okay.
Breathing was easy.
Okay, so from a young age you were a backstroke swimmer. Any role models that you sort of had at that stage?
No, not really, no. No, in fact, I was more interested in athletics, and Gert Potgieter was someone who I always read about.
Okay, so you loved athletics. At the age of 13, you broke your first South African record.
That's right.
Tell me about that. I mean, if you only started a few years before that, I think a year before that you started with serious coaching, so you improved quite quickly and became a name in South African swimming very quickly.
Well, I started at very low level, so it wasn't too difficult to get up to that level.
And your first South African record, was that at Nationals or where?
No, I think it was in Pretoria, just at a normal sort of league meet or something like that.
And was it expected? I mean, you must have been close to it to the time.
I don't think it was expected, but I sort of just took it easily on that and realized I wanted to continue in swimming.
Okay.
I also played tennis a lot.
Okay.
And had to decide between the two. And eventually I decided on swimming.
Was that before or after the South African record?
It was after that I decided to keep on swimming.
So at the age of 13, what school were you in?
I was at Jeppe High.
Jeppe High.
My whole family had gone there.
And were there other good swimmers in your school?
No, not at all.
So you were like the lone voice in Jeppe
voice.
High. Jeppe is a good rugby school, and
that's right.
They were already at that stage a good
The boys' school was very good. My brother was there, and there were a lot of sportsmen there.
Speaking of your brother, did he also swim?
A little bit, not much. He thought it was too many hours to put in.
Okay. So you became the South African record holder, and then was at that stage, how far were you off the world records?
Oh, it was quite a good few seconds.
So was it something you were thinking of? Was it something the coach spoke about? Was it, at 13 to already swim South African records, there must have been some thought of.
No, right from when I was tiny, I wanted to go to the Olympic Games and win a medal and stand on that podium and have my national anthem playing. I thought it was going to be running, athletics.
Oh, okay. Were you running at that stage?
I did a lot at primary school. No, only at primary. They didn't have it at high school. I loved athletics.
Sprinting or?
Sprinting.
Oh, you're a sprinter. Okay. So at South Africa, when was our last participation in Olympic Games?
In 1960 in Rome.
So did you get any news of the Olympic Games? I mean, there wasn't television then, so...
very little.
So it was word of mouth and bit of newspaper clippings.
Knew very little. And the ones I was supposed to go to were 64 and 68.
64 was Rome?
Was Tokyo.
Was 64 Tokyo?
And then Mexico was
68. Okay, so now you South African record holder, and now you start training, and your aim is Olympic Games. Tell me what happened after that. So it was 62 that you broke the South African record?
Yes, I think so. 62. Okay. Yeah, then we swam against the Dutch. I think it was 63.
Okay.
That was sort of the start of really knowing what it was all about.
Yes.
It's quite interesting. And then it was just nationals and things like that.
Okay.
And then we started training for the Olympics, but then we're told we weren't, going. So then I thought, well, I'll have to break a world record then. What can I do?
There's only one way to do it.
There's only one way.
Okay. So in 63 to 65, you won the South African titles in backstroke. Was it 100 and 200?
100 and 200.
And was it 110 yards or was it 100 meters already?
We had 110 yards in the beginning.
Okay. And was from your first year, was it already a 200? Because I remember Brian Stewart said that the 200 came a bit later.
I can't remember, to tell you the truth.
No.
Probably only 100.
Okay. And then obviously some relays, I guess you swam.
Relays, and I swam medley.
Okay.
I liked that as well. But I loved freestyle.
Okay.
Also love that.
Also sprinting.
Also sprinting. Yes, I'm a sprinter.
Okay, so you broke your first world record in 1966.
I think it was 66, yes.
And you broke the record 3 times. By that stage, there was another swimmer on the scene that everybody knew the name of Karen Meer.
Yes, yes.
What was your first recollection of swimming against Karen? Can you remember?
You know, it didn't worry me who I was swimming against. I always swam against myself.
Okay.
You know, I didn't care who was next to me in the pool. Didn't worry me at all.
Because I believe Karen was swimming in Kimberley.
Yes, she
was
in
in
Kimberley.
So you would only see her once a year at nationals?
Yes, absolutely.
Or unless the Springbok?
Unless the Springbok tour.
Okay.
And she swam in the junior race where she first broke her world record. I wasn't even swimming with her.
Wasn't swimming against her. Tell me your first time you were selected for South Africa. I think you were 13 years old or 14 years old.
Yes, 13 against the Dutch.
And if I'm correct, you were the youngest swimmer ever to be selected for South Africa at that stage.
At that stage.
That's an incredible feat.
So.
How many ladies in that, can you remember? Were you the only lady or were there other ladies in the team?
No, there were others. There was Diane Ludolf and a few others.
Okay.
I don't remember their names.
And your first international tour where you actually got on a plane and went overseas, what was that?
That was 1965.
1965.
That was the British Nationals, and we went to Spain as well.
Okay. Barcelona?
Barcelona, best place.
Best place, a lovely city. And again, you swam the backstroke.
Yes.
And your achievements there, did you win?
In Barcelona, I was pretty close to the world record there, so I knew then that I had a chance. It was a very choppy pool.
Okay.
So it wasn't ideal swimming circumstances. So then I knew that I was more or less on track.
Okay. Was that the first time where you realized
yes,
this is actually possible? Because sometimes when you set these amazing goals, you have to first believe that you're going to do it. So,
I always believed.
You always believed.
I think that's the best part. I had the right mind for it.
Okay.
You know, I always believed I could do something. Okay. And it didn't worry me if I was beaten or that. I just thought, well, the next time I'll, win. But it was more I went for a time.
Okay. I think it's a good attitude to have. If you're swimming against yourself, the placing doesn't really matter much. If you improve your time, even if you're second or third, you've achieved your goals.
Win.
No. It showed in your results as well. So, what year did Karen Meer begin to swim? She's like 3 years younger than you.
Yes, I think so. It was 66 when she broke the world record, I think. And then I think I also did it in that year.
Did she break your world record? Or
no, she broke, I think it was Linda Ludgroves or someone like that, who was from England.
From England.
And she broke it in England.
In England. And when did you break the world records then?
I broke it also in 66. It was first of all here in Kimberley with Karen Meer's mother announcing it.
And was it Karen's record then?
Then it was, yes. And then we went on a tour which was France and the American Nationals and Canadian Nationals, and I broke it in France. And that was 100 meters, and then I broke it in Vancouver again.
So if you
and
say...
then I broke it 110 yards in Vancouver.
Okay, so you had two different, so you had the 110 yards world record and the 100 meters world record. Okay, I thought breaking it 3 times was the same record, but it was actually two distances.
Yeah.
How much different was the time between those two distances?
I can't remember exactly. Probably nearly a second, I think.
Okay.
I'm not sure.
And breaking the world record, obviously, all of a sudden, people want to talk to you. They want to take your photograph. They want to, they want some of your time. How did that affect you?
It didn't worry me. When you're young, nothing worries you.
Yeah.
You take everything in your stride. Didn't worry me.
Did you enjoy it?
Yes, I suppose so. It just didn't bother me.
I would have loved it. So I hope you enjoyed it.
Yes.
And in later life, how did being Anne Fairlie, did it open any doors for you in business? Did people recognize you?
Yes, I think it opened doors for me to get into physio. It was a BSc. Okay. Numbers were very small, and so I think that did help me. I think showing I did another sport and was good in it, I think they knew that I was a worker. Okay. So I managed to get into physiotherapy, which was a wonderful thing for me.
There's one thing, if you're good at swimming, very few people get really good at swimming without putting in the long hours.
That's right.
Whether you're a sprinter or a long distance swimmer, it always
many hours.
And I think that discipline helps you later in life.
Very much.
And you also come from the era where there were no pools in heated pools. Tell me about how did you get through winter?
Well, we had Hillbrow, which is a small little pool. I think it was 20 meters long. And my mother never drove, so I had to get there. Eventually I got my learner's license and she would come with me. But you sort of had obviously the rest of the world at Hillbrow because it was the only pool. Yeah. They were diving on top of you, jumping on top of you, and you were trying to swim. But it was quite good because you had to do turns so often. So you got quite fit. Turn is quite hard and a lot of energy put into it. Yeah. You got quite fit. So before each, tour overseas, I trained there.
Was that indoor and heated?
Indoor and heated. Oh no, I can't bear cold water. I wouldn't have swum.
You live on the doorstep of one of the most iconic long distance swims in the world.
I was in Johannesburg then.
As we overlook the sea here, there's the iconic Robben Island swim. You never did any surf life-saving or freshwater life-saving those days?
Nothing,
it was not.
No.
Okay. Because that entails a bit of cold water.
No, I wouldn't have even thought of it.
Tell me about your coaches. You said in your first year you were coached by someone who didn't even charge. Then you went to
Then
Cecil.
I went to Cecil Colwyn.
Yeah.
And he was a well-known coach in those days. Yeah. And trained with him. And then just at the very end I went to Frank Muir, who was Karen Muir's coach. Frank Gray, Frank Gray, for just 1 year.
And where was that, in Joburg?
No, in Kimberley. I had to live in Kimberley then.
Oh, you moved to Kimberley just to train? Oh, that's incredible. That's commitment.
Because I thought we were going to Mexico Olympics, so it would have been worth it.
So tell me about the year where I think it was 69. So you'd won, I think 63, 4, 5, and 66. Did you win nationals in 66 as well? And you swam against Karen Muir. That's the year when you guys broke the world record. Can you remember who won nationals then?
No, I can't remember actually. She might have won. I don't know. I can't remember at all.
How often did you swim against in the lane next to you? Was that?
It was quite often.
Quite often?
Yeah.
Okay.
Quite often.
And who won most of the battles? Can you remember?
I think it was more or less equal.
Okay.
But I must, as I said before, I didn't worry who I was swimming against. So it didn't matter.
Yeah. So 68 was the Olympics that.
Yes, but I gave up then. As soon as I heard that we weren't going, I gave up, and that was my first year at varsity, which was very, all the years of physio were very intense. Yeah. So it was probably a good thing we didn't go, because I would never have done the degree then.
Well, I can see your attitude. You always try and find the good in everything. I mean, I remember Lee McGregor told me over the phone that he cried his way home from the airport when he heard that the Olympics, that they couldn't go to the Olympics. So
it didn't worry me.
Really?
Oh, I thought, well, I'll do the
you
world
just set your
record
gols on your studies.
Move on. There's so much more in life. It didn't worry me at all.
That's incredible. And you worked as a physiotherapist?
Worked as a physiotherapist, 5 years at Red Cross.
Okay.
Which is a wonderful hospital. Learned all my physio there, really. And then I went into private practice with 2 other people, and we had that for 25 years.
Here in Cape Town?
Here in Cape Town, we worked at 3 of the private hospitals. Okay. In the end, we were employing nearly 20 locums. So it was very big practice.
And you mentioned it was cardiothoracics,
yes.
Thoracics,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cardiorespiratory actually.
I guess I've got a friend who played in 2 World Cup rugby, but he's also a medical doctor, and I asked him, how do you handle a loss on the rugby field, because he's involved, as Brendan Fent is involved with Saracens.
Okay, yeah.
And he said to me, rugby's just a game. It's a very important game for me, but it's just a game. When people sit in front of you and they're busy dying. that's
Yeah,
serious.
yeah.
And I guess that's what,
Yes.
working with really sick people,
Really sick people.
just getting up in the morning is a blessing for you. And
You're
it
right.
does give you balance in life.
It does. Except at the end, I started to think, which one am I going to be? I think that's then.
Yeah.
I decided I think I better give up.
Yeah. You mentioned you've got a son and a daughter, and both of them are keen swimmers.
Yeah, my
Your son plays
daughter
water
was a
polo?
provincial swimmer, and my son had Springbok colours in water polo and swimming. And he went to the Athens Olympics.
Oh, wow. And you went with?
I went to see, watched him.
And when you were sitting there and you watched a bit of the swimming, any regrets or not?
I think my one regret was not pursuing the 100 freestyle. Because at that
Okay.
stage, the world record wasn't very good.
Okay.
And I think I should have just gone straight to freestyle.
Oh, wow.
It was a possibility then. As I said, it wasn't a good world record. So that's the only regret I have.
Okay.
But
That's interesting.
Yeah, you see, after swimming, I went to varsity. I played a lot of squash. Then I played provincial squash for many, many years.
Okay.
And then I went to cycling. So it's sort of
Cycling?
lovely.
The road cycling? Oh, wow.
Still do that, Arguses and that sort
Okay.
of thing.
Well, I can see you still stay in shape. So cycling is the one thing that you still do.
I do that about once a week outdoors, and then, I used to go to the gym often.
Yeah. And
No.
any swimming?
Never. It's the last thing I think of doing.
Really?
Absolutely. Wouldn't dream. The only time I get in a pool is with my grandchildren,
Okay.
because they force me in.
Have they got any idea how good a swimmer grandma was?
Well, they knew I had a world record.
Okay. Well, that's pretty. Not too many grandmothers can claim that. So, tell me, and do you still follow South African swimming today?
Very little.
Very little.
No, very little. I follow athletics a bit
Okay.
globally.
Yeah, because you're still a bit of a sports nut. You love your sport. You
I
mentioned you love
my
rugby as
sport.
well.
Love rugby.
Okay.
I want to come back in my next life as a rugby player.
Oh, the girls play rugby now. So,
No, but I want to come back as a man and play rugby.
who's your favourite in the Springbok team?
Well, it's a good question. I always like the forwards,
Okay.
but
We've got a couple of decent
and
forwards there.
the backs I think are the more exciting in them. But no, I think the forwards set them up, so that's
Incredible. And tell me, you never went into coaching, because a lot of these world-class swimmers, when they stop swimming, they've got so much knowledge to impart that they go into coaching. Was that never something?
No, I just helped at my daughter's school.
Okay.
Coach. But no, I never. I went from one thing to the next. I
Yeah.
was busy all the time.
It looks like when you switch your mind and the focus is onto something. So when you stopped swimming, the focus was on your studies, and there wasn't time for
Totally.
anything
No.
else.
No,
Okay.
then I moved on to squash.
And then to squash. And your achievements in squash?
Well, I played Provincial A, and
Okay.
I think I was about 14th in South Africa at one stage.
Wow.
But I said I would never take a sport seriously again. But I must say I played about 5 times a week when I was, playing hard.
I think that's also the difficult thing for, if you're really good at a sport, to just go back and just swim up and down a lane would be difficult.
Very difficult.
I can see that for people who were good at marathon running and they stop, and then in later years when they start running, they want to be in front.
Yes, and you want to do those times you used to do.
Exactly.
So
Exactly.
there's no point.
Yeah. So you said your one regret was freestyle, but you did win national titles. Did you ever
I won
have South
national
African
titles
records
in South African records, yes.
for the 100 meters freestyle? Those days there were not 50 meter. Did you have 50s?
No, there weren't 50
Yeah.
meters.
You think you would have been pretty competitive in the 50?
I think in the 50, yes. I was
Yeah.
a sprinter.
Yeah. And you never had short course galas in those days?
No.
Yeah, so it was either 100 yards or it was 50 meter pools and 50, was it 55 meter pools?
Must have been.
55 yard pool.
Yes.
Never thought about that.
Nor did I.
Because you mentioned having the opportunity in the Hillbrow pool to do so many
Yes,
turns. So
yes.
short course these
Short
days, the
course.
turns are so important.
That's
The
right.
underwater work is just
Yes,
incredible.
it's very different now, yes.
Yeah. So I watch someone like Chad Leclos, and the work they do underwater is incredible.
It's incredible,
Yeah.
I agree.
An interesting thing that popped up in Brian Steele's interview was butterfly was not really something in his era that, people didn't swim butterfly, and they had a breaststroke kick, and Did you swim butterfly?
I swam butterfly. I can't remember whether I held the South African record for that. I can't remember. But I swam quite a lot of butterfly.
Okay, and that's
and
what
the
made
medley.
You a good medley swimmer.
Yes. No, I quite liked butterfly.
And breaststroke? Because I mean...
No, hopeless.
Thanks, there's at least one stroke that you weren't good
hopeless.
at. Yeah. When you swam butterfly, was it with a normal butterfly kick? Because in the beginning it was a breaststroke, or people could alternate. You were allowed to do both.
Butterfly kick.
I remember swimming in Windhoek. Some people were still doing butterfly with a breaststroke, especially the strong breaststrokers. They did butterfly with a breaststroke kick. Yeah.
No, I didn't even know that.
Yeah, yeah. Backstroke changed quite a bit. I mean, in your days, you were supposed, or not, you were only allowed to touch on your back. You were never allowed to turn on your stomach. These days you can turn on your stomach. I know,
and you can stay underwater for so long. Yeah. And no, it's very different that.
And also, Brian mentioned the start in backstroke was very difficult because the pools were not really, they hadn't...
Yes, I suppose they were.
Yeah.
I used to sink down, whereas everyone else came up when they said.
Yes.
I found it much easier to sink down.
And then shoot up again.
And then shoot up.
That's interesting. Highlight of your career?
I think my world record in France. It was the second one. It was 100 meters. More because I just felt so good in the water.
Would you say that was the day that everything clicked?
Everything clicked, as you say. You need everything to click.
Yeah. A lot of the very good sportsmen, they always refer to a bit of luck as well. Do you think in your swimming there was ever any luck involved?
No, I think just when my headmaster gave me those lessons, I think that was very lucky to be at the right school.
Okay.
Very lucky.
Okay.
But nothing else.
Nothing else? Your luck dried up after that?
It dried up after that.
It was all just hard work. There's nothing wrong with it.
I think I trained less than most people though. When I was at school, I only went once in the evening, whereas everyone else trained in the morning as well. I didn't.
Not a morning person?
Not a morning person.
Even when you broke your world records, no morning sessions?
Only in the holidays.
And was your final year in Kimberley when you swam with Frank Gray? Was that your final year of competitive swimming?
Yes.
And at that stage, was it all you were doing? Or you were not at school anymore?
No, it was all I was doing.
So for that year, was it a year?
Yeah, it was about that.
67?
67.
67. And did you improve your times in
Not then, not in 67, no.
So maybe your recipe was good, just...
I think, and also in those days, especially women, you gave up early, you know.
Yeah.
Whereas now they go on till, 30 or something, I don't know. They go on for a long time.
Yeah, I think a lot of the guys I've spoken to, 23, 24, even the men, they had to work.
That's
you had to earn a living. Swimming wasn't going to pay.
No, that's the thing. It was an amateur sport.
Yeah.
You earned nothing. In fact, your parents paid out.
Yeah. And I remember that generation of parents. Eventually they said, you can't just swim every day. You need to get a decent job.
I think I was very lucky with my parents as well. They didn't push me at all, and yet they got me to all the galas and everything. I think that's where I was lucky.
So you mentioned you broke one world record in France. The other two world records you broke in South Africa?
One in Kimberley and one in Vancouver.
Oh, in Canada, on a tour. And were your parents...
not present at any of them.
Not even the one in Kimberley?
No.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, their parents, I don't think, certainly mine didn't travel with you at all. You never phoned home or anything, phoning in those days, distance call. No. Not
so
the whole time
how did they find out? Through the press or?
Through the radio.
Wow, that's incredible. They must have been super proud of you. Now that's just crazy times, that today we're so connected. Everybody's got a mobile phone. In fact, everybody's got a video of what just happened. So
yes, that's right. No,
those
so
days
different.
they would have received the video on their phone.
No, nothing like that.
Do you have, I've seen a lot of newspaper clippings, so there was quite a lot of reporting in those days on swimming.
A tremendous amount. And my mother kept numerous scrapbooks. I still have them.
I hope you still have them.
Never look at them, but I still have them in the garage.
Oh, that's good.
She was very good. She collected everything.
Please don't let those go to waste. We need to capture the history of South African swimming. It's interesting, I asked Brian Stewart the same question. Somehow there was an era in South African swimming where all these guys who were world class, were backstrokers and freestylers, but more specifically backstrokers, and you come from that era as well.
Yes, it's strange that.
And I asked him why, and he didn't really have an answer. But most certainly yourself, Karen Meir, Brian Stewart, Lee McGregor.
That's right.
All world-class backstrokers, and shortly after that, Karen van Helden came, and she was also a backstroker.
I think maybe the coaches were good in the sport. Although they seem to train all swimmers in all the disciplines, but perhaps they were, especially good at teaching. Certainly my Cecil Cohen was very good technically.
Yeah, and backstroke is a very technical stroke.
Very.
Did you swim with a nose clip or not? Because that's
I
always
did actually, because I suffered from sinusitis, so I did. I think I introduced it, almost. Didn't like it. I never swam in a race with it.
Really?
And then we didn't use goggles at all.
You also, because I remember Joan Harrison said that, and so red eyes after every swimming session.
Still suffer from red eyes.
That's incredible. Yes. Some things have improved over time.
Improved a lot.
Yeah. Okay, so these days you happily retired. You've got a beautiful view here. How do you keep yourself busy?
Keep myself busy with my dog, trying to walk him. He's impossible. I cycle and I go to the gym. Obviously not in this lockdown period.
Yeah.
And I have a stationary bike, a wind trainer in my garage. Okay. So that's how I keep myself
still staying fit. And then obviously your kids and your grandchildren are in sport, and you get to those sporting events. My
daughter's overseas, but I go to numerous things. I've got a granddaughter who's, I think, a bit like her grandmother, very competitive, more competitive than I am.
And in what sports?
Running and swimming.
Okay.
And she's very good at gym as well.
I remember from my days, people said if you're swimming, you shouldn't be running because you're using different muscles. That has completely changed. If you look at a lot of swimmers now do running.
Yes.
So I think that was.
Yeah. I did ballet as well in the beginning.
Okay.
So I sort of went from
core muscle
tennis
strength
to ballet to swimming. Very active when I was young.
Yeah. I think in the end, it's just you need muscles to do any sport. So the more sports you play, the more muscles you build, and it helps in all different sports.
I don't think there's that much crossover there.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you've got to do your.
A question I asked a lot of the people is, were you a confident swimmer? So if you've put in the hard work, gave you confidence, or did you have confidence nonetheless? So if you skipped a few training sessions, would that influence your confidence at all or not?
You didn't skip any training, but I had confidence right from the start. I always, even when I did athletics at junior school, I moved the cups up and made space for the next one I was going to win on the Saturday.
Okay.
Which was a bit dangerous. My mother had a fit, but anyhow.
That's wonderful to hear. And you've made a massive contribution in some of the newspaper clippings. They talk of the golden era of South African swimming, the 60s, and you were a big part of that, and I'm sure you've motivated a lot.
Hopefully.
Being 3 years older than Karen Meir and being the reigning South African champion, I think you probably played a big part in the competitive part of Karen Meir.
I think if you've got one good swimmer and you see that she's made, done well, then you sort of think, well, I can do it.
Yeah. So thank you for your amazing contribution to South African swimming. Thank you for talking to me. And
it was nice to meet you. Thank you.
I hope you stay healthy and fit and keep on cycling and keep on inspiring people, because you're an inspirational person.
No,
thank you so much.
Thanks very much indeed.